Fearless investigative journalist Michael Hastings was known for his contempt of the Obama administration for its restrictions on the freedom of the press and the CIA for its mass covert surveillance. Hastings rose to prominence with his coverage of the Iraq War for Newsweek in the 2000s. After his fiancée Andrea Palmovich was killed when her car was ambushed in Iraq, Hastings wrote his first book, I Lost My Love in Baghdad, a modern war story, in 2008. A memoir about his relationship with Palmovich and the violent insurgency that took her life. Hastings became a vocal critic of the Obama administration, Democratic Party and the surveillance state during the investigation of reporters by the US Department of Justice in 2013, referring to the restrictions on the freedom of the press by the administration as a war on journalism. His last story, published by BuzzFeed on June 7th, Why Democrats Love to Spy on Americans, was highly critical of President Barack Obama and the intelligence service's domestic spying program revealed by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden. Hastings died in a fiery, high-speed automobile crash on June 18, 2013 in Los Angeles, California. Many of Michael Hastings' friends and family believe that he was assassinated by the CIA for exposing General David Petraeus, General Stanley McChrystal, and for a profile he was working on of the current CIA director, John Brennan. His widow, Elise Jordan, said that, I have no doubt that he was pursuing a hot story. He always had at least 5 hot stories going. That was Michael. Right now, the LAPD still has an active investigation. My gut here is that it was just a really tragic accident and I'm unlucky in the world. The world was very unlucky. However, the hacking website WikiLeaks has revealed a treasure trove of information related to the CIA surveillance program, which has been codenamed as Vault 7 by WikiLeaks. Amongst the analysis, it has been revealed that the CIA uses something known as Weeping Angel, which hacks Samsung TVs and turns them into microphones. They can also turn the TV into a fake off mode, meaning that they can spy on you even when you think you have turned it off. I think it's time that I got rid of my Samsung LE very quickly. There is something more sinister that the Secret Service has been working on. Here is a quote from WikiLeaks regarding this. As of October 2014, the CIA was also looking at infecting the vehicle control systems used by modern cars and trucks. The purpose of such control is not specified, but it would permit the CIA to engage in nearly undetectable assassinations. Michael's car crash happened more than a year prior to the quoted date of October 2014, but that doesn't mean to say that they were not already working on such hacking software before his death. Thanks to WikiLeaks, we now know that the CIA targeted French political parties and candidates in the lead up to the 2012 French presidential election. One of the CIA orders directed agents to learn opposition party strategies for the election, information on internal party dynamics, and rising leaders and efforts to influence and implement political decisions. The CIA operation ran for 10 months from November 21, 2011 until September 29, 2012. If the Secret Service had no qualms in targeting and hacking government officials, would they be so generous to a journalist who had revealed shady things about General Stanley McChrystal and the previous intelligence director, General David Petraeus? In June 2010, Rolling Stone published The Runaway General, Hastings' profile of US Army General Stanley McChrystal, then commander of NATO's International Security Assistance Force in the Afghanistan War. The article reported remarks by Crystal's staff that were overtly critical and contemptuous of White House staff and other civilian officials. On June 22nd, news of the forthcoming article reached the attention of the American print media and the White House. McChrystal immediately issued an extensive apology, and Duncan Boothby, the civilian contractor responsible for coordinating the article with Hastings, resigned. President Obama summoned McChrystal to the White House on June 23rd and relieved him of command. So, the questions we should ask are, firstly, why anyone would want Michael dead? Secondly, who would want him dead? And lastly, how would they execute the assassination? Michael had a number of enemies in the top brass of command in both the US Army and the CIA. He revealed how General Petraeus had seduced fellow officer Paula Broadwell, who was 20 years his junior. She became known as the Pentagon's Monica Lewinsky. In 2004, during the presidential campaign in the United States, Petraeus wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post praising President Bush for his Iraq policy. He claimed that the policy was working when it clearly wasn't. Bush repaid the general's political advocacy by giving him the top job in the war 3 years later. Michael wrote the following excerpt about Petraeus in his blog on BuzzFeed. On his final Iraq tour during the so-called Surge, he pulled off what is perhaps the most impressive con job in recent American history. He convinced the entire Washington establishment that we won the war. He did it by papering over what the Surge actually was. We took the Shiite side in a civil war, armed them to the teeth, and suckered the Sunnis into thinking we'd help them out too. It was a brutal enterprise. Over 800 Americans died during the Surge, while hundreds of thousands of Iraqis lost their lives during a sectarian conflict that Petraeus' policies fueled. Then there is General Stanley McChrystal, who was relieved of command by President Obama after Hastings published his profile of the general, which revealed that he and his staff were overtly critical of the Obama administration. This must have driven McChrystal insane. Imagine how a top commander in the US Army must have felt after such a humiliating and embarrassing situation as to be relieved of command. Finally, there is the current CIA director, John Brennan. Hastings was working on a profile of the intelligence director at the time of his death, but this may just be a coincidence. If you wanted someone killed, but wanted to make it look like a tragic accident, how would you execute your plan? We know the CIA has the means, the power and the technology to engage in nearly undetectable assassinations. The CCTV footage of the crash reveals that Hastings' car appeared to be travelling at full speed, and then it veers violently to the left, as if he had no control of the steering or the acceleration. The engine was found some 60 metres to the south of the accident scene. High-speed crashes have caused engines to eject from the mounts, so this isn't necessarily indicative of foul play. The day before the crash, Hastings indicated that he believed he was being investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In an email to colleagues, which was copied to and released by Hastings' friend, Army Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, Hastings said that he was onto a big story, that he needed to go off the radar, and that the FBI might interview them. The FBI released a statement denying that Hastings was being investigated, at least not by the FBI, according to the FBI statement. This statement was incorrect, as the FBI had opened a file on Hastings in 2012. The FBI file on Michael Hastings and its attachments, totaling 21 pages, were released to the public on September 24, 2013, after investigative journalist Jason Leopold and MIT doctoral candidate Ryan Shapiro filed a joint suit in July 2013 against the FBI for ignoring their Freedom of Information Act request for the file. The FBI failed to respond to the request within the allotted 20-day period. On August 15th, Leopold released a statement that read, "The Department of Justice has indicated that the FBI has likely located responsive records pertaining to investigative journalist Michael Hastings." Al Jazeera, along with Shapiro, released results from a Freedom of Information Act request, showing that the FBI's Washington field office had opened a file on Hastings in June 2012 to store unclassified media articles and memorialise controversial reporting by Rolling Stone magazine on June 7, 2012. The attorney who filed the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, Jeff Light, suggested that it was uncommon for the FBI to open such files on reporters. In summary, Michael Hastings' death could just be a really tragic accident that was perhaps caused by a fault in his car that he was unaware of. However, he was driving a top-of-the-range Mercedes C250 coupe, which would be built to very high standards and designed to handle severe damage caused by a high-speed crash. It has 5 stars in the European NCAP Awards, which is the highest rating a car can receive for safety standards and features. Former US National Coordinator for Security, Infrastructure Protection and Counter-Terrorism Richard A. Clarke said that what is known about the crash is consistent with a car cyber attack. He was quoted as saying, "There is reason to believe that intelligence agencies for major powers, including the United States, know how to remotely seize control of a car. So if there were a cyber attack on Hastings' car, and I'm not saying there was, I think whoever did it would probably get away with it." So, do you believe Michael Hastings was assassinated in his car, which was used as a convenient way in order to cover the tracks of the true perpetrators? Or was this just a really tragic accident that appeared to be anything other than just an accident? Leave your comments, as I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this fascinating story. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, why not subscribe so you don't miss the next exciting episode of Strangeries. Thanks for watching.